to, why is this increase happening? And, without knowing that, there's just absolutely no accountability of where this money's going.
Well, personally, I appreciate the cooperation that the Sheriff's Department has given us in talking to them in the last 2 or 3 months, and realize the headaches that they have in operating a safe county. Basically, I appreciate what they're striving to do. The cooperation that I see on the table, they understand that we did save a lot of money from certain angles, and they understand that their budget went up considerably, and we actually should have done the amendment to the budget before the spending. That is, by law, we should have done it. But what Mr. Jakes, Commissioner Jakes recommended is actually what we plan on doing is moving that money over on the line item. Therefore, we know we'll have that amount, and when it's necessary, we would like to ask the Sheriff's Department to come and say, this is an area that we're going to need additional funds. Therefore, and give us documentation. Therefore, the commissioners will deal with it at that point. Any other comments about that particular thing about the budget?
Is anybody concerned about our fund balance? I think our auditors have expressed to us that it's very low and that we should have more in there. This budget doesn't account for raising our fund balance any, and we're backing ourselves into a corner. I can see that now.
Can we ask questions now, or we're wait?
Public,
Yes.
public hearing.
Public hearing.
I'm sorry.
Perfectly in order.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
I'm listening to this. What are we going to do? We are not going to raise the millage because our budget is going to be within that, right?
That's correct.
But yet, if we're going to pass amendments down the road this next fiscal year to add to the budget expenditures that we're not putting in the budget now, or when you pass it, how do you know we won't have to raise the millage and collect taxes to pay for whatever you're going to raise the amendments? Suppose the Sheriff's Department, suppose the Personnel Department, they come in and say, well, we've just got to have another $100,000, $200,000.
Let me see if I can answer that for you. Actually, we're leaving the dollar figure the same. We're just reducing the line item for the total amount for the Sheriff's Department. So the money should be there in the line item if we do amend the budget. We certainly wouldn't amend the budget if we didn't have the funds to provide their request.
You'll only amend the budget then. That's going to be a rule. You only amend the budget if you've got the money coming in to pay for it. Is that what you're saying?
That's exactly what I'm saying.
And so, because people, more and more people in this county are losing their jobs. More and more people are not making as much as they did, and it's not going to get better, it's going to get worse. So somewhere along the line, we've got to start thinking about the county of not just keep increasing every year. We got to think about what really does the county need? What are the services they have to have? And start looking at that and start cutting where we don't need all of this. There's a lot of things that go on maybe we can do without.
There is. I'll be the first to say there is, but how to get that accomplished, I haven't figured it out yet.
Well, you're the guys.
Well, I
If you look back over the last year, the structural changes that have been made have saved hundreds of thousands of.
yes, ma'am. If you look back,
But yet we spin it because
procedures we started
we didn't
this
save
past
any,
year,
so.
we saved thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars.
But we spin it.
But we got to get everybody's cooperation. We don't feel like we need to add for a millage rate right now because we understand the public's situation. We basically trying to squeeze out all the fat out of our government, squeeze out all the waste out of our government, so we know if we ever have to go to the public, it's going to be a necessity. We're not going to do it until it comes a necessity. So I do not see that happening this next year. What I'd like to see happen is an effort on everybody's part to look hard where they can squeeze out anything that's not necessary to run our government efficiency. So that's what we strived for this last year. We'll continue trying to do that.
I realize, I was in management, did budgets for 30-some years. I know what you're up against. Nobody ever wants to cut. Well, I can't do without that. But what happened is, you saved the money, but then this department over here spent the money.
Right.
And what you're trying to do is to keep them from spending the money.
We saved in one area and overspent in another.
Yeah, I
So
mean,
we
you
saved
save here and the whole.
We used all our contingency funds.
And if we
that
hadn't
did not-
saved the other, then we would really be in
Well,
loss.
yeah, you'd be in more trouble, but we'd be in more trouble, not you.
Well, we are.
We
are.
Well, I saw some additional people come in. We're talking about the budget. We've got about 10 more minutes in public hearing. Do you have any other public person who would like to comment on the budget?
I'm not real savvy on what's going on with the sheriff's budget. I know what I read in the paper. Is it cut as much as you can cut it? And is that entirely up to the board? Seems like there's a lot of waste there still yet, but I'm not sure.
Well, it goes back to what I said a while ago. We are working with the sheriff's department. I appreciate their cooperation. They are very sincere in trying to assist to run a very effective sheriff's department on the very minimal budget they can do. So we'll just keep the line items open so we can hopefully achieve that.
Did they not just ask for a huge raise?
$603,000.
And you said,
We said we're going to put that funds, we recommend we put that funds in a line item and then deal with it if we need to, if they need to assist us to deal with it to help them out.
would you break that down, deal with it? What does that mean?
You want me to explain?
Okay, explain that.
The proposal,
Thank you.
after evaluating the budget, my recommendation is to make one change in this year's budget, because all of the other departments, apart from the sheriff, are basically just a minimal increase or a decrease.
I understand.
My proposal is to take the level of spending in the proposed sheriff's budget this year from the proposal back to the level of spending last year, which it was basically, the proposal was $3,789,403.30. And my proposal is to take the level of allocated funds for the sheriff's office back to the same level. $3,244,000.92, which was allocated in the 2014 budget. The projected revenues, millage rate and everything, leave it intact. Take the differential of what was proposed in their 2015 budget, shift those funds into contingency, which would go toward increasing general fund, or should there be any definitive needs throughout the year from any department, whether it's the sheriff's office or otherwise, they would have to come back and justify the expenditure to the board and publicly, and we would have to make a formal budget amendment increasing the budget.
So, let's say there was an increase, and they had asked for more, but yet someone over here had asked for more. Is there a priority?
Well, it depends on who the other one is that you're asking for.
Let's say
That's
utilities.
very valid. point.
Yeah, I mean, it is.
Yeah.
And we would have to make that determination. There's a
And-
limited number of resources
Now-
here.
Would we, the people, have a voice in that before
Absolutely.
you do that?
Absolutely.
I'm very concerned about the sheriff's budget.
Well, and that's what I have brought.
Not the sheriff himself, but the
Any
department.
increase in their budget as well as other departments would be via an amended budget, which they would have to make a formal request to the board. We would have to open it up for discussion publicly and vote on it publicly.
Okay. Thank you very
Very
much.
well
That was
said.
informative.
Well, let me ask you this, with that said, could we then, with that money that's in that line, come in and with the, basically, the $300,000 in total that I'm looking at, with $195,000, because one of the reasons why our health insurance is going up is because the money that was supposed to be in the account is not there,
Understand.
which is $195,000.
Correct.
So if we had our $195,000 in there, we wouldn't be looking at that extra cost right now.
Well, I'll say this, David, if my proposal is accepted by this board, then us as a board via a budget amendment can move and shift money around as we, if a quorum approves, deem appropriate.
And then are we going to have it where if the sheriff comes in basically and says that they need a car, are we going to have some type of a PO where they have to go through to get things approved before they spend the
Well,
money?
we can do that independent of this. This only addresses the overall budget allocation and formalized budget request henceforth. This does not address the policy issues of expenditures. We can do that, independently. They will have their money and can spend it, although, they'll be responsible like any other department for monitoring the budget allocations on a monthly basis via line item, and will be issued a report.
And now that we've got we were basically done almost with that QS1, aren't we, Elaine? So with that, now we'll be able to look at it on a monthly basis. So
Correct.
what happened this last time won't happen again.
Correct.
Okay.
So how do you make that correction? Say if last month you got the report at the end of the month and it was over and so how do you correct that?
Well, we look at it, while we do look at it on a monthly basis, we have to look at it on an annual basis because there might be some expenditures that you have during the year that are a one-time expenditure. And the first thing we're going to do is if somebody comes to us, and I'm speaking just for myself, I do not speak for the board collectively, but the first thing that I'm going to do is evaluate, well, if this is a need, what else in your department can you cut to fulfill this need before you come to the board?
Does the board agree with that analogy, to handle it that way?
Well, essentially, what we're doing is creating a contingency fund like we've always done, and keeping the sheriff's budget the same. So, I don't see where we can argue with that. I think that would be a very good route to take. But we have a contingency fund in hopes that we can move it to the fund balance in which we desperately need more money in the fund balance because like I said, our auditors have warned us that we do not have enough operating capital in our fund balance. This year we were not able to do that. We can talk about how many hundreds of thousands of dollars we saved, but we spent it. So did we really save it? No, we did not.
So your overall goal then is to live within the budget that you're going to pass and put whatever's left in the contingency fund.
In the fund balance?
And that fund would not be a slush fund
No.
for anybody that came in and said, I'm in desperate need for this. It would be looked at very closely before any money's taken out of that
fund,
contingency fund. We do need to put money aside. That's important.
Absolutely.
it's the best way I can explain it. A contingency fund is like having your savings in a low interest paying checking account.
Right.
And the fund balance is CDs.
Yeah.
Kind of, if you want to put it on And you really don't want to get into your CDs, but if you have to spend, you're going to spend from the checking account first. But,
That's a great approach if you just keep control of it.
Thank you very much. We have approximately one more minute, any last minute comments about the budget? Yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry. This contingency fund, what if someone is in dire need, and I'm up to a voicemail, like the district attorney, Parks Life. This poor blessed man is in dire need of funding. And you know the counties that is in the Northern Judicial Circle. Well, if you could, I wish I brought the paper, the Elberton Star. I have had 20 people call me as cheerleaders, and he is burnt out. Elbert, Chairman Lyon will not give his funds and the money, it's just not there. I don't think it's going, he's wanting another assistant DA. And honestly, totally and godly, I think the man deserves it.
Ms. Spivey, can I interject?
Yes,
Last
you
year,
may.
Mr.
I'm just
White.
asking about the contingency fund.
Right, and I want to answer, you asked a specific question about the DA, and I wanted to let you know that last year, we actually amended our budget and paid our part, adding another attorney to our, Mr. White's staff. If I'm not mistaken, his name was Jeffrey.
He was a he. Yeah.
An assistant
He came
DA,
up
so
with
we
that.
actually
Jeffrey
did.
Bogus?
Yeah, we did that last year, and we amended the budget due to the need in his office, knowing that that would help expedite the caseloads, getting people in and out of,
I know that we have
He's
to
just
close.
burnt out. I mean, he's probably gonna go, we're probably gonna lose him.
I appreciate them comments.
I know we need to close, but on the last note, I've asked, and I would like to ask our county manager if he could provide us with arrest records, stops, fines, everything as far as the sheriff's office for the last 5 years. Maybe it could help us to understand better why the increases.
All right, any other comments? I have now 1 minute after 6, so we will close our first portion of the hearing on the 2015 budget.